today's Saturday, the day of eternal cooking in my house. So we've had a busy morning already. I've done breakfast. It was really boring, bacon sandwiches, healthy ones, mind you. So I didn't bother filming those. But I'm doing, for sort of late lunch, early tea, I'm doing my Asian duck salad, which is essentially Chinese duck, just like you get from the Chinese takeaway, but without being fried. And then instead of doing it in pancakes, I do it with a lovely mixed salad with a dressing on it and wholemeal noodles, and it seems to go down a treat. So I'm going to show you how to do it. Duck is best cooked long and slow. You will get the softest meat, the best flavour if you do it this way. So I've got two things going on over here, and I'll explain why. We are currently still in a lockdown, so I wanted to get a whole duck like this one. But when I went to the supermarket 2 days ago, they didn't have it. So I bought a duck crown, which is duck breast essentially. Somebody went to a supermarket for me yesterday and had a look and managed to get me a whole one. So now we're going to do both. So it's going to be a lot of duck. The good thing about that, it is leftovers. There are going to be leftovers. Well, I say that, don't know how hungry we'll be later. So you've got to prep this slightly differently. A whole duck, I've got here like a cooling rack for baking, and I'm going to put my whole duck onto it. Now, quite often when you buy duck, it's in a cook in the bag in its own tray. You don't want to do that this time. So what you'll find is that they'll tuck this little flap in here. You need to cut this off for this recipe. So I do this with scissors. You can do it with a knife if you want. There's not really that much flavour in it, and we're going to permeate a lot of flavour into it. So I'm going to discard that and put it in the bin. No, it don't need to be washed. So if I move all of this over, you'll be able to see. And I'm going to do the same thing with both options here, and obviously if there's only two of you, this would be a better option, but the cooking times will vary. So I'll prep them in the same way, but the whole duck will go in first, and the breast, duck crown, whatever you want to call it, will come out sooner because it needs less cooking. But they both get prepped in the same way. So what you want to do inside the cavity is I'm going to put some sliced ginger. This is just, I've scraped the skin off it, but I've not been overly fussy about it because it's for flavour. And then you want sort of 4 or 5 garlic cloves, and all I've done is just pop them open. I'm not taking the skin off, they're there for flavour, and pop those in. And don't worry, this is a little bit of a gross job, but I'm guessing you're not going to be vegetarian if you're doing this. And some spring onions. I've just taken most of the green off and just made sure they're nice and clean. They've actually been in my fridge for about 5 days, so they're not the freshest, but they're actually perfect for this. And then what I've also got is not even half a lemon, it's like 1/4 of a lemon. Just to add a bit more flavour and a little bit of moisture, so it will start to sort of leach its juice while it's cooking, and it will keep moisture flowing through it as the duck fat is going to seep away. And then now, star anise, controversial. Some people love it. I'm not an aniseed fan. You would probably put all 3 of these inside the duck, but I don't love them. So I've got 2 broken ones which are going to go in, so it's about 1 whole one really. And I'm going to leave those in there because aniseed really is part of the flavour. I can't explain to you why I'm doing this. I found them in my cupboard, cloves. When I smell them, it just reminds me of Chinese cooking. So for whatever reason, I've decided to add 3 cloves, just a little bit of extra flavour in there. And then obviously the rest of this is for the duck that's already had the legs taken off it. So you need to be a bit more organised with how you stuff this one. I'm going to show you because look, obviously the cavity is a lot smaller. So what you want to do is really kind of fan it all out, and I'd put your star anise in now so that you can push it right to the back. So that's garlic and ginger. So then I'd put the lemon sort of, actually, do you know what I'm going to do because of how small that is? I'm going to cut it again, and I'm going to cut it again, so that I can add it and it doesn't fall out. So I'm just going to add those in like that. This is an unwaxed lemon, obviously. Organic if you can get it, but you know, other sorts of lemons are available. So there we go. And then with the spring onions, because they won't obviously fit in the cavity because they've removed the bottom end, I'm going to stuff them in as best I can and then push that part down so that it actually kind of air will flow through and steam away and give you some infusion, but it won't obviously fall out. And then the little cloves on this one, I'm just going to literally stick them through at the top there, just so that I know where they are, they stay in place and they permeate some flavour. And that really is the bulk of the work done for this dish. All you then need is to wash your hands, because bearing in mind I've just touched raw poultry, and I'm about to touch Chinese 5 spice, and that will go back in my cupboard, and I don't want to add germs in there. So I'm going to give my hands a bit of a wash. Better to be safe than sorry, people. If in doubt, just wash them again. And obviously I always have I have a tea towel in my pocket, and this is one that I only use when I'm cooking, and then I'll put it in the wash. I don't wash up with it. So back to our duck. I've got my oven preheated to 160 degrees. It's going to start at that for a whole duck for about 50 minutes. For the duck crown, I'll put it in for 20 minutes. So this will go in for 30, then this will join it, and then the temperature will go down to 140 in a fan. I think that's about gas mark 3, gas mark 4, check it. And then it will cook for about another 2 hours. You'll know when it's done because it will smell amazing, but you can use your internal thermometer to check it, and I'll show you how to do that when it's done. So with your Chinese 5 spice, literally all you're going to do, and I'll show you how to do it on the crown first. It's really technical, this one. And then really rub it in. I hate these little sprinkly things they put on because it's really hard to get them out. There we go. So you really want to rub this 5 spice in, because we're not going to eat the skin, guttingly, because that, unfortunately, people, is where a lot of the calories that are in duck come from. So there is this kind of thought process that it's duck's really fattening, and the reality is it's not the duck that's fattening, it's the fat and the skin that, by all birds really, that has the most in. So it's nice and dry, as you can see, there's nothing wet. I took these birds out of the fridge, took them out of their package, and let them come to room temperature for about half an hour to let them fully dry, because obviously when they're inside something there can be condensation in there. And I just used a bit of paper towel to dry the cavity. As it wasn't wet at all, but just if you're not sure, bit of paper towel, put it away. So there we go, that's our duck breast joints done. And then I'm going to do exactly the same with the bird, but what I'm going to do, I've got a preheated pan in the oven, which I'm going to stand this on. So let me get that out now. I'm going to use my trusty cooking tea towel to not burn my hands, but I would use my oven glove to put my hands on clean. So just a big baking tray, and the idea being that you're going to balance your duck on top of it, so that all that fat that renders off it, and it will be a lot, people, goes into the bottom, and we can get rid of it without it splattering all over my oven, which will then make this quite a lean bird. With the breast, there's not as much fat on it as there is a whole bird, but you will get some. So what I'm going to do is every 20 to 25 minutes, I'm going to take this little container out and drain the fat off into a jug. Now, if you're being really healthy, you should find a friend to give that duck fat to, or dispose of it in a method that doesn't block up drains. If you're not being so healthy and you just want to do this because it's fun, keep the goose fat, because you can make some really fantastic roast potatoes with it. But I'm going to put mine in a jar and dispose of it because we can't have it. So literally, again, with this one, Chinese 5 spice all over it. You've already got lots of flavours from ginger and garlic and lemon and all the star anise and cloves and stuff that are in there. So that's going to permeate from the inside, and then this is going to permeate from the outside. If when you're cooking it you think it needs more, feel free to add a bit more in. What I'm going to do is empty the baking tray before it goes back in of that star anise, of the 5 spice that's just fallen in. But I put it on here deliberately so that I could make sure I'm fully covered and not end up with the Chinese 5 spice all over my kitchen. Capturing debris is always a good option, and I can just see my lemons moved a little bit, so I'm just going to pop that back in. So that's it, nicely rubbed in. Make sure it's everywhere, underneath as well. There we go, just put a little bit more underneath. And that's it, in the bird goes. Cook that, and then we'll come back when we'll do a part way through with this one, because at that point you'd start prepping your salad as well. So come back to me when I get to that point. So the duck's now been cooking for about 3 hours. As you can see, I'm fairly certain it is cooked, but I'm just going to use my trusty thermometer to make sure it's well and truly cooked. That is cooked for a duck. So it's out now. I want it to sit and rest for about 10 minutes, because we're having it with a salad. It doesn't need to be piping hot anyway, although it will still stay really hot in there. The duck breasts are out as well, and I've just toasted some asparagus So I'm just getting my last few bits ready. This is a pan ready for some wholemeal noodles to go in. And so come back to me and we'll just do those final bits and I'll plate the dinner up. So I decided while everything was cooking and cooling down and everything that as lovely as the mixed salad will be when it's finished with all its bits and bobs in it, obviously we're not going to put a dressing as such on it. And actually my children have an aversion to salad dressing, I don't know why. So I'm just making up a sauce but without much in it. So in this dish I've got half a lime squeezed and a quarter of lemon juice, not too much of the lemon juice, the lime juice has got a bit of natural sweetness. I've got a tablespoon of soy sauce and I went with the light one, and I've got a quarter of a teaspoon of sesame oil, which is obviously very strong. And then what I'm getting, and that's really salty, soy will make it really salty. And what I've got in my pestle of mortar here is a quarter of a teaspoon each of pink peppercorns, and also, if I can find them, Szechuan pepper, to add a bit of bite and a bit of, it's not heat spicy like a chilli would be, but it is a bit of something to it, just to give it a little bit of, bit more flavour, a bit more depth. And also I've added a tablespoon of water as a replacement for oil. So I'm getting some flavours like I would want without adding in oil into my dressing as such. And then all I'm going to do is I'm going to put the ingredients of this into, you're going to think I've gone nuts here, but into my pepper and let it all infuse, and then I'm going to strain it back through a sieve to get all the bits out so that I'm left with an infused flavourful dressing that I can drizzle on to my salad without using oil or overpowering the flavours that will be in it. So we're just on the final stages of this meal. Hope so, 'cause I'm flipping starving. I always am starving, it's because it takes too long to cook. So I've made up a mixed salad here. So when I call it an Asian salad, I don't really know whether that's a thing or not, but I've just included things like bean sprouts, there's sugar snap peas hiding under here, we've got some carrots, peas, edamame beans, sweet corn, peppers, there's some cucumber, some tomatoes and some lettuce. There would have been chicory, but we had a little bit of an issue with that, so there's no chicory. So that's what we're gonna serve with this feast. And here is my duck. I've already sliced off my breast and I'm now just going to use, and I've just cut along the backbone there with a knife. For those of you who really like crispy duck skin, this is going to be really difficult because you can't eat any of it, because that is where all of the calories are located, and it's really hard with all this beautiful crispy tasty skin. You can't have it. And then literally I'm just going to use some forks because it's so soft, and I'm just going to pull the meat off and I'm going to shred it. And it is that simple. You can literally just use the back, because it's been cooking for so long, it's tender, it will just fall off the carcass just like that, and then just pull it to one side. So you do that with the whole bird. I've got 2 dogs and a guest sitting at my feet, hoping to God I drop some. I'm not going to. But look, it's literally, it'll just come cleanly off that breastbone and it's gone. So do exactly the same with the other side. Remove all that skin. So sorry people, I know. I hope you're feeling my pain because I desperately do want to eat it. But the dogs will have a feast on that later, so it won't be wasted. And you just literally look, it's beautiful and tender and it just falls away. So we'll do that with the whole bird, and then our noodles are cooking in the background. My trusty cameraman's going to show you that now. We've gone for wholemeal noodles because we love them. You don't have to, obviously, you can make choices here, but I just find the wholemeal noodles with this dish taste the nicest. Choose whatever you like. And I've also just done some asparagus, which we're going to have warm with it. So we're just going to get all of the meat off of this carcass and then we'll plate up. So come back for the last few bits. So here it is, it's all finished. I've shredded all of the gorgeous duck off of the bone, so you've got heaps of it there. My children have come down and are now circling like buzzards over this. And then obviously your salad, and this is the wholemeal noodles with just a tiny bit of sesame oil on them. So I'm just going to literally take a little bit out of each quadrant of the salad. There's no dressing on it. I just want to show you the dressing as I've done it. So you can see it's no oil. Oh, it smells amazing. So you've got like pepper and a bit of salt and some soy and a bit of depth from the lime, and then just a tiny hit of sesame. And then right at the very end, when I've plated it all up, I'm just going to add some black sesame seeds. And then we'll show you the finished dish.